in Title IV. Good afternoon. Welcome to New Community Connecting You to Resources. My name is Rodney Brutton. I'm the Director of Workforce Development with New Community Corporation. Today we're joined by representatives from My Brother's Keepers Newark here in Newark to tell us a little bit about the NBK Summit and program here in Newark. To my right, we're joined by Will Simpson. And Will, why don't you just give us an overview of NBK and the work itself and the origin of it all?
Absolutely. And let me first start by saying, Rodney, thank you for having us here today. We see New Community as one of these institutional partners that, we can't really move the city forward without. So every time we have an opportunity to partner, we always kind of are really excited to participate. So My Brother's Keeper. Back in 2013, we saw the murder of Trayvon Martin, right? And about a year after that whole year, President Obama was really trying to figure out what he can do from the White House level to make an impact for boys and men of color, right? I think one of the things that he said was, 30 years ago, Trayvon Martin could have been him, or it could have been his son.
Sure.
Right? So there was a real need, I think, from the White House to really figure something out for young men of color. From there, they came out with this My Brother's Keeper Challenge, which essentially highlighted 6 different intervention points for young men of color. And if we were able to, as a community, to kind of really provide services and supports for these young men, we see some market improvement in terms of life outcomes for them. So early 2015, Mayor Baraka decided to sign on to the challenge after the announcement by President Obama. And so from that point, we've really been trying to figure out what can we do around high school completion, college completion, and violence reduction strategies for young men. Made some great strides in some of the programs that we were doing. These brothers were actually participated in volunteers in a lot of the early events that we had here in the city of Newark. Things like Occupy the Schools. Over, I would say, the past year and a half or so, the focus has changed a little bit. We know President Obama is no longer at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, but he's changed residences, right? Now he's at the Obama Foundation in Chicago, right? So we have another institutional arm to help carry this work forward. My Brother's Keeper has kind of been absorbed into a pillar of the Obama Foundation with 2 main focuses nationally, really looking at how mentoring can really impact boys and men of color, as well as providing these second chance and violence reduction strategies for young men who may have strayed off track. So here in Newark, we took that signal from the national partner and said we can focus on those things here as well. So as we kind of roll out our plan over the next 3 years here in Newark, we'll be very intentional about how we look at mentoring, right? And not just how mentoring happens, but the amount of mentoring relationships that are happening, right? The quality of mentoring relationships that are being developed. But also looking at second chances. So we have a thriving OYN system that is in play here in the city of Newark, but we still have 7,000 young people that aren't connected to school or job training. How do we make that system seamless? So and then how can we use mentoring to kind of support that as well? So we have initiatives like Newark 2020. We want to be able to streamline our young men, no matter where they are, into this process, because we know when we give them an opportunity to show up, they show up and they're ready to excel.
Great. Thank you, Will. Alfred, Blake, why don't you share your role in NBK and how it sort of ties into that big picture that Will just shared with us?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to be a coach within the preparation for the summit, and throughout the process, we helped to, not only myself, but a team of different coaches help students to get ready and prepared for these interviews. We talked about things like your pitch. What's your elevator pitch when you go into an interview? What's your first impression? How do you dress? What are the different things that you're going to do after the interview? What are the things that are going to make a difference during the interview? And one of the things that I really love about what My Brother's Keeper Newark did, they didn't just provide an opportunity summit. They didn't just provide access, but they provided preparation in order to go and take advantage of the access.
And I would speak from New Community Corporation side of the preparation, and part of the work with NBK and preparing it is the job readiness that went in beforehand to get young people ready for the summit itself, with the interviewing skills, dress for success, that elevator pitch, having a quality updated resume, and how important that is to connect our young people to job opportunities. Chike, I think your role with NBK and the origin as just a thought, a concept, and then made its way up into the big event itself. Why don't you share a little bit about the background and the origin of it?
Yeah, man, thanks for having us. Yeah, I remember a few years ago, my youth pastor, David Jefferson Jr. over at Metropolitan, had said, "Hey, I need you to come to the Willing Heart Center for something. And he didn't tell me what it was. He just, I need you there. And so when I showed up, I just walked into the room, a bunch of young men around tables, a bunch of parents off to the side, and he told me I just needed to have, he told me that this was a space to kind of just pour into the young men, where we were talking to them about, my role was talking to them about entrepreneurship, about money, how money matters, how your relationship to money matters. And I remember just the small little tables, you know, and then fast forward to February, the summit, and just being in that room, seeing all the young people in the city, and then seeing all the different parts and sections and how it was laid out. It just my heart was smiling, man.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm just, no matter what, I'll always be a part of something like this.
Correct. And I think, Will, you'd made the point in terms of some of the work that's being done, and you referenced OYN and the Opportunity Youth Network.
Right.
What put that in context in terms of the OYN purpose, its goal, its outcomes, the population OYN is looking to sort of engage?
Absolutely. So when we look at the Opportunity Youth Network, right, we always knew we had kids that were either overaged, underaccredited, or weren't going to school. I would say almost 2 years ago now, the Opportunity Youth Network, through its partners, was able to come together with Newark Public Schools in the city of Newark to open a re-engagement center. So it really gave like a tangible opportunity for young people who traditionally have been marginalized, left out, not necessarily brought to the table, a place for them to come and say, hey, if you're ready to take that next step in your pathway to success, now we have a place for you to come to. But it's more than just having one program, right? OYN is a system.
Sure.
There are many different program partners that have this kind of core belief and core mission, and that's to help our young people transition to success, right, and career. So when we look at this kind of life continuum the framework that we use for MBK, we can't help but really focus on that tail end because we know how many young people, like I said the number before, we have 7,000 young people that we need, that it's our responsibility, I would say, to make sure get re-engaged into this pathway of success.
And both for Chike and Al, talk a little bit about why entrepreneurship is a pathway to success for young people. How important is that?
I think we come from creation, and I think that it's really important because when you look at the prison population and what's going on with that, entrepreneurship really doesn't. Your GPA doesn't really matter. If you have a record, it really doesn't matter. You can start a business. And I think that's an avenue for a lot of people, especially for our young men who don't necessarily see maybe higher education as a pathway for them. Entrepreneurship is where there's really kind of no boundaries. You create your own company, you create your own culture, your own products, your own services, your own impact. And I think that's really important for them.
And that's the message that was driven during the summit itself. Al, what are your thoughts on entrepreneurship and how that sort of impacts young people and give them a vision and something to shoot for?
Yeah, so I believe we're all born entrepreneurs, but somewhere down the line, it gets beat out of us. And I say that because I have a 4-year-old, and we have a policy in the house where she only has a certain amount of juice. So a couple of weeks ago, we said she couldn't have any juice, and she ended up going in the kitchen and putting up a chair to get to the top row to get her juice, and she grabbed the juice. And you might ask how that relates to entrepreneurship, but entrepreneurship is really about solving problems. And we're all problem solvers. And it's important for wealth creation as well, because it gives people an opportunity to create things, scale it, and provide wealth not only for their immediate families, but families to come.
And well, as we close out this segment of today's program, tell us a little bit about the level of civic engagement. And I would even say first from the mayor's office, and then connecting that to local organizations. How important was civic engagement and getting MBK off the ground here?
I think you can't have an initiative like MBK without civic engagement being at its core, right? I think Chike talked about it earlier. MBK was about pouring into our young men, and it has to be poured in, that love, right, has to be poured in from every level. So whether it's our municipal government, whether it's our corporate partners, everybody has to be bought in, because we know when our young men succeed, we're going to succeed as a community. So it's critically important that it's a holistic approach. So it's the education system, it's the criminal justice system, it's our government, it's our healthcare system that are all having this common agenda to see young men of color thrive and achieve. And we can do that together when we are together.
Great, great. So as we wrap up this segment, I think it's important to look at the work that's being done with NBK from its origin and actually the making its way to the actual event. So we want to thank our guests. We want to thank Will, Al, Chike, as we close out this segment, and look forward to continuing our conversation about the NBK Summit and talking a little about next steps. Thank you. Welcome back. We're now joined by Ms. Nicole Fields, the Program Director for NBK Newark here today. And Nicole, I think thank you for joining us. Why don't you give our audience, our guests, a sense of what are the next steps for NBK from the summit, and where do we go from here?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Pathways to Success Opportunity Summit brought together 1,400 young men, 50 corporations and employers, 50 community-based organizations, 18 entrepreneurs just like this brother right here, who are all ready to show up for young men.
Yeah.
They're all ready to provide the next step, create and clear a pathway for them, and create a system that is not only about this one day of employment, of opportunities, of new connections, but about creating a city that is really committed and invested in young men of color. So what's next is that we've got a pool of almost 500 young men who received a job, who got a second interview, who are going in for additional screening, and who are ready to do the thing, like who are ready to really activate in their communities. So moving forward, what we're looking to do is, number one, work with mentors such as Chike and Alfred to continue to stay connected to those young men, to continue to wrap our arms around them, right? We recognize that it's not just about getting that job, it's about staying in that job. It's about creating kind of a living wage for yourself. It's about creating a wage that allows you to sustain yourself and your family. So we're bringing together these people who care about young people, right? Who've got the kind of connections, who've got the networks, who've got the knowledge to help to bring that to our young people. Secondly, we're also bringing together the community-based organizations and employers who really care about these young people as well, to say, what are some solutions that we really can double down on? What are the pathways that are in demand right now? Right? What are the jobs that we know are emerging right now or emerging in the future for those future workforce? And how do we make sure that no matter what door the young person walks through, they are walking out better. They are walking out on a pathway. They're walking out towards success. So that's getting our community-based organizations such as New Community Corporation, who've got a real local place-based kind of strategy, right? You guys know what's going on in your neighborhood specifically and can say, you know what, we need more childcare, or we need more violence reduction work. We need more help with record expungement and you know, expunging criminal records.
Need more jobs.
We need more jobs. We need more employers who are really invested in our young people. So we're looking to go directly to the source. We're going directly to the people who are in the community who can tell us what those needs are for those young men. And then finally, we are really trying to attach ourselves to the mayor's Newark 2020 initiative. And that's the mayor's initiative to increase the number of residents with a livable wage and in gainful employment by the year 2020. We want to make sure that there is a system there for them. They're not just an event, and this event was awesome for sure, but not just an event, but a system that's available for these young men to say, okay, this is where I'm at right now. Where do I get looped in? Who is my connection that I can connect with? Where's my network that I can find kind of my next step and my pathway? So that's what's next for us.
And that's an excellent segue in terms of the sustainability with regards to NBK Newark's work, right? And Chike, why don't you just talk about a little of the mentoring piece, because that's a sustained sort of effort and outcome of this work. Tell us a little more about that mentoring piece and your role and why that's so important in continuing sort of NBK's work.
I mean, I think a lot of these young men are like myself. I didn't have a male teacher that looked like me until my third year in college at NJT, and so I think it's important for them to see themselves in the folks that are in front of them, helping them prepare for jobs, helping them stay on the jobs, helping them create businesses, helping them write books, helping them create whatever it is they want to do.
Sure.
And that mentoring aspect is, I think, having access to someone that is outside of your family, outside of your circle of friends, who can kind of put you in connection to the Prudentials, the Panasonics, the other smaller companies that are out here that are also in a place to hire them. I think mentoring, without doing the work, without mentoring and dealing with real issues that they're having is just.
And if I can just build on the mentoring component, that's something that's foundational to MBK, not just here in Newark, but nationally. We know that around the country, 1 in 3 young people go through their entire lives without a mentor, right?
Wow.
So when we look at the numbers for young men of color, we know that that number is higher than 1 in 3. It's probably closer to 50%. So for us, it's important to kind of close that gap for our young men, because we know when young people have mentors, the levels of graduation, high school graduation rates go up.
Sure.
The levels of interaction with the criminal justice system go down, right?
Yep.
And we know that we have men within our community that are prepared to kind of give back to our young people, continue to pour in that
Step
love,
up.
to
Yeah.
step up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I think Nicole talked about it. Our young men have stepped up.
Yep.
So now it's time for us, some of us within the community, to step up as well. But really quickly, just talking about this kind of framework, not necessarily creating a new mentoring program, right? Ton of great mentoring programs in the community. I think for us, it's looking at the quality of those mentoring relationships and how we bring partners together to start to baseline some best practices.
Yep.
So if you're a parent and you have a young man of color that you're raising, you can send them to a mentoring program here in Newark, and that program has some standards and knows that there's some data-driven outcomes that they're looking for.
Yep. So Nicole, I just want to circle back to one of the points that you referenced in your comments in terms of what are the next steps, right? And you mentioned a number of partners. Talk to us a little bit about some of the key sponsors and partners that enabled the event to be such a success.
This was a labor of love, for sure. Both in the creation of My Brother's Keeper, but also in the kind of execution of this Opportunity Summit. We had obviously our national partner of My Brother's Keeper Alliance and the Obama Foundation as an excellent partner, both in this is their 4th and final summit that they've done.
And what were some of the other cities they operated?
Oh yeah, they've been in Detroit and Oakland, Memphis as well, and Newark. An important place because we know that only 18% of Newark residents actually hold jobs here. And African American males are twice as likely to be unemployed here in Newark than anywhere else. So some of our partners include the Obama Foundation, Prudential Financial was a huge partner, Prudential Center, also a partner to us, the Newark Alliance, Opportunity Youth Network, which we mentioned, and then we had tons of employers and community-based organizations, New Community being a strong partner, La Casa, another strong partner, Essex County College, also a huge partner to us. Our employers span everything from Amazon to the Chipotles to the larger, the Panasonics of the world. The Chipotles, all of these different, both small and large corporations who are both anchors here in the city, and then also national corporations have joined us.
I just want to highlight one partner that Nicole talked about, and that's Prudential. When we talk about this My Brother's Keeper work here in Newark, but also nationally, you can't really have the conversation without talking about Prudential's investment, right? So there has been a large investment made nationally, but here in Newark, I think once we started, we knew that this was Prudential's backyard, and they wanted us to get it right. So to date, we've been able to secure roughly about $1 million in support over the past 3 years or 4 years to really make sure what's happening in Newark has some legs to it. So Prudential has been one of those key partners, along with other local philanthropic organizations like the Victoria Foundation and the Schumann Fund.
And I would say in my role at New Community as a participating organization, I mean, we've had a number of our young people who participated in the summit, and I think again we talked a little bit about the work that happened prior to the summit with the job readiness, the resume writing, the Dress for Success, the elevator speech, and that work. But really, the outcome was really successful. 4 of our graduates of the program, 2 were hired, and the 2 others were interviewed and going through the interviewing process. So we can speak firsthand the outcomes of MPK, the summit itself, and the work that's been done. Well, Nicole, if you had a success story to share about a young person who went through the program similar to New Community's experience, what would a success story look like?
Well, we've heard a few, right? And in fact, right before we came here today, I know we got a couple via text message as well, just talking about some of the young people. And I know some of the young people at New Communities, they're not here today because they're at work, right? At one of the jobs they were able to get at the summit. But I think one that kind of speaks to the heart of the work that day and really paints a broad picture about the work of MBK. There was a young man that came in homeless, addicted to drugs, and then the mayor saw him, right? And had started having this real heated dialogue, I would say, with the young man, and told the young man that there's resources in this room right now that may not have necessarily ever come together before in one place that he's able to access in the immediate. So from that conversation with the mayor, I know he was able to be connected with the Street Academy to get involved with that program. But also, I think he walked away with like 2 job offers.
Wow.
So he was able to go get his resume written. He was able to apply online, and then he was actually able to spend FaceTime with some of the employers, right? And I think he was also connected to some of the community-based organizations.
Sure.
So I think it was really important that we had all these services in one place so young men can access them at one time.
Yep.
Just to all the barbers too, all the barbers that were getting the young men fresh, all the people that were helping them tie ties,
Right.
get measured up for their shirts and their suits, and, and the little stuff, you know, people were printing out resumes for them, all the volunteers, you know, we gotta definitely shout them out.
Yeah, and I would say this again in my role at NCC and just thinking about the organization and the structure of MBK and the summit itself, much credit is given to the organization of it, in that not only were we as a community-based organization required to identify, recruit, screen, prepare, place, and help students get jobs, but on the back end, there's that retention piece, like the follow-up. So Nicole, talk to us very briefly about why follow-up is so important.
Yeah, follow-up is absolutely important. As a matter of fact, one day of training or one day of kind of being introduced to an employer does not equal kind of readiness for that. And so the follow-up is our training partners like NCC and our mentors like Chike and Alfred are reaching out to young people, creating events that they can come to continue this work, either to continue the work of developing that career pathway, and then also continue the work of developing those networks.
Well, this concludes today's program. I want to thank our guests from MBK Newark for participating. We also welcome those who are interested in New Community Workforce Development Center to visit our website at www.newcommunity.org to learn about our workforce programs. We will also welcome you to contact the main office. Our phone number is 973-639-5604. And certainly if you want more information about MBK, you can contact the Alliance as well as New Community Corporation. So thanks again, and we want to thank our guests for participating.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.